Today on the bench have a dual 1019. This one came to me with, it did have a cover, and it was kind of the old plastic bubble. I call it like a bubble cover, but it was kind of destroyed, so I'm calling it coverless. I do have some covers from, I think, some 1219s probably that actually fit, because the plinth seems to be about the same size, but there's nothing to keep them in place, or there are no hinges. So it had the cover. It was missing the sled. So I bought this aftermarket sled from Pat's Audio off of eBay. So there's that. So I did have to replace the sled. And this, I've used these in the past, and they work pretty good. So get that back on there. Oops. Nope. I'm kind of challenged when it comes to putting these sleds into these head shells. I don't know anything about this turntable other than the fact that it was missing the sled. So we're going to throw a test record on and see what happens. I'm actually prepared this time. I've connected this to my stereo already. A little tiny bit of hum, but not bad. So let's see. Just want to see mechanically what's going on. So that's good. I did, when I put the sled on, I did set the tracking, so this one has been verified as good. Alright, so let's fire this up and see what it does. Thinking about it. Now that may be just because it hasn't run for a while, so and it doesn't want to shut itself off. So this control feels pretty gummy, so I am fully anticipating lots of dried up grease. So this is playing. Let's see if I get, oh yeah, sounds good. Should. There is a little bit of, there seems to be a little bit of hum. I'll see if I can track that down, sort that out. So let's see if this returns. Nope, doesn't want to return. So let's try it again. There it goes that time. All right. Sometimes you have to cycle these, or you have to reset the mechanism, and I don't know what models you do that on or you don't do that on. Sometimes you just lock the tone arm in place and you let it cycle itself and it resets everything. As you can see, that is not turning itself off, but at least it made it back to the resting position here. All right, I'm going to unplug this from power so I can get that disc to stop spinning. And there's Ralph. So Ralph wants to be in the garage with me, but Ralph doesn't want to stay in the garage with me. The second I start filming, he wants to do something else. So I'm going to pause here and take care of the dog real quick. What I'm going to do first is I'm not going to, oh my gosh, where's my microphone? I'm not going to remove the platter just yet. I want to see what this mechanism is doing underneath. But I can almost guarantee that it is going to be a grease issue. Let's see if I can get this out of here. So let's, oh my gosh, this is so heavy. All right. Well, I didn't think this through, so I need to swap out for my turntable Lazy Susan and put this in a better position to evaluate it. So looking at the bottom of this, there's tons of dry grease. and it's hardened, it's sticky. That's sticky. I think what's happening, so here's the shut off. So what happens is when it's turned on, this is pulled out of position, right? So this is on, and I think what's happening is this grease and maybe some other grease is holding it in position, right? Because that should actually go in like so and turn itself off. So first thing I'm going to do is clean off some of the old grease, apply some lithium grease. I'm not going to disassemble this because sometimes, well, I just don't like doing that unless I absolutely have to. So I'm going to go through cleaning all of this, applying some new grease, and then we'll see what happens. All right, change in diagnosis here, I guess. Probably dried up grease on this post here is what's causing the issue. So I need to take this apart. I may have to look at the service manual to see how this comes apart. But I think this post here has some dried grease on it that I will need to somehow figure out how to get to. To clean that off. So. All right, so gosh, I hate these dual turntables. I think I've freed up the mechanism. I think I've got everything back together correctly. I had a clip. I found the home for that. I had to watch the video again to figure out where that went. So I think it's time to try this out. All right, so let me, I'm going to flip this over, put it back in the plinth, and then we'll see what's going on. Real quick before I do that, I told you that there was some hum that I had noticed. You probably can't really see it in the video, but the RCA connectors are all corroded, and I actually had to take some pliers and wiggle them off. So this corrosion, this oxidation, could cause that. There's also a muting switch right here. And this muting circuit, if it's kind of gunky, it can cause that problem too. So before I flip this over, and my cord is tangled up. Oh, shit. Right. What I'm going to do is take some cardboard. Right, this is just from some stuff I got from Mauser. Some transistors, and I'm going to slide it between those two contacts and kind of rub it back and forth, apply a little bit of pressure to the contacts to kind of close them, and this will pull off some of that corrosion oxidation. I can also use a little bit of sandpaper, but I want to see if this will do it first. So, yeah, it got a little bit off. You can kind of see the gunk that it pulled off. So I just wanted to kind of tell you what I was doing there before I flipped this over and fired up. I'm also going to clean up the spindle real quick and grease this. Because if by some strange miracle I actually get this thing working on the first try, I really don't want to have to do anything else to it. And a lot of black grease here. I would assume there's going to be quite a bit of black grease on the inside of the platter. And these platters are so heavy. Yeah, look at that. That's pretty disgusting. And not to say that grease is bad, but you know, it's definitely not sticky. It's probably been oiled or greased, right? Like grease was there. Somebody shot some oil down here or something. On duals, I like to use lithium grease. If you haven't noticed, I like to use lithium grease on these. And I'll hit this with a little bit of grease. Kind of put a little bit on the inside. With these, it's almost like you can't have too much. Pop that in there. Give it a whirl. And see, that'll spin all day. That nice heavy platter. Okay, so now we know the sound was kind of off. Now, you have not plugged in new RCA cables yet. I will be doing that, assuming the mechanism is working correctly. So I'm going to do 2 tests. I'm going to do manual, just to make sure it turns on manually. And that doesn't work. I may have to cycle this first, or manual. It has an issue that I'm going to have to sort out, which, again, fixing a dual for me on the first attempt is almost never okay, so there goes start. See what happens. That's good. It's not what I wanted you to do at all. Gosh, I hate these turntables. I absolutely hate these turntables. All right. Turned itself off, so we got that working. That's good, because I wanted it to actually drop it on the record. Stop it. I just cannot stand these piece of shit turntables. I'm sorry for the language, but I can't. I just hate these things. Like, and why did it start there? I'm serious. I would throw every one of these in the trash. It just won't. They just don't ever want to work. They just don't ever want to work. Right, so it returns, and then it should shut off, and it powered itself off. See, I don't know why it's jerking like that. Must be something loose. Every one of these, I really wouldn't throw them in the trash. because I'm working on this one, obviously, but oh my gosh, these are just horrible. They're just horrible. They're just absolutely horrible. This is why I refuse to work on them for customers. I'll do it for the shops, but the shops also know that I will quickly lose patience on these, and there are other electronics folks in the area and they just won't even work on them. And I don't blame them. I honestly don't blame them. So this was loose. Hopefully that was the problem. But if I get that, okay, well there it goes. So maybe that was just too loose. Oh, motor's running. Kill power to that. Yeah, unfortunately, if a customer calls and they say, hey, I've got a dual turntable, I'm like, I'm not your guy. Usually I'll say I'll at least look at it, but the repair is probably going to be more than the turntable is worth because of how time consuming these repairs can be. I've been on this one for an hour. Okay, power. And then you freak out, and then you do that, and I don't want you to do that. And then you stop. And then you drop. And you turn yourself off. Looks like I got some grease on this. And this is not a good copy of Bitches Brew, so. Start. Let's see if it actually drops it in position. Don't want you to do that. You piece of shit. Don't want you to do that. Gosh, what a piece of junk. I hate these things. Goes all the way to the middle. All the way to the middle of the damn record. I'm going to give it 10 more minutes. And then this is going to go to the side. I think there are some dual specialists online that will work on these. Okay, so let's see. So that is that's the size selector. And all it seems to do is I'm going to have to look at an old video and part of the video and see if that goes underneath this little lever or this little slot or goes in that little slot. Okay, wrestled with this for another half an hour trying to figure out what the heck the problem is. And disassembled it, reassembled it, checked the service manual. Everything is connected the way it's supposed to be connected. I'll show you what the issue is if this does not work. But I have no earthly idea how to fix it. Alright, so it looks like maybe the last disassembly remedied the issue. There was a lever that made contact with a post underneath. In fact, I'll show you. I'll just show you here in a minute, assuming this stops. All right, I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure. So there, it turned off. Let's do start. No, now it just jerked. That's what it kind of did before. Okay. So it appears that it is behaving now. And now it should stop, drop, stop, shut off. Good. And I apologize for the cursing when I work on these, but it's still summer and it's still 90 some degrees. And it just gets frustrating when this stuff doesn't want to work right. So here's what the problem was after I disassembled it. It wasn't that it was assembled incorrectly or anything like that. So what happens is, let me get this balanced so I can show you and not scratch anything. So what happens is, basically when you press start, so here's the lever that limits where the tone arm, right, that little peg, in fact, let me get my fat finger out of there. Here's the peg that makes contact with this lever, right? This peg contacts this lever, and this lever stops the record in the different positions, 12, 10, and 7 inches, right? This pushes this lever up. For some reason, this little post here was jammed into position. It would not go down. I'm going to apply some oil to that just to make sure that's oiled. But once I pushed on that and kind of freed it up, and there's quite a bit of stickiness there, so I'm going to hit that with some oil. Also, this tab was bent up, so it pulls this lever in kind of an upward position. The manual shows that this should be flat, so I slightly repositioned it, flattened it out. I could always bend it back up if I have to. So those are the only things that I did to get this to work. But see, like there, it's kind of stuck. So I'm going to hit this with just a little bit of oil. Do one last function check, clean up the plinth, and I'm going to call this thing done. So if you don't see anything else, I haven't tested for sound yet. I'll do that if there's more troubleshooting on the sound, like if cleaning these muting circuit contacts didn't do anything, then I'll come back and we'll further troubleshoot that. But I'm going to clean these RCA connectors off, use some different cables, because those cables I pulled off were all corroded too. And I think that'll probably resolve the hum issue. So anyway, if you like what you see, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.